ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Allah reminds us, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. You who believe, be mindful of Allah as is His due. Make sure you devote yourselves to Him to your dying moment. And He reminds us, يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. People, be mindful of your Lord who created you from a single soul and from it created its mate, and from the pair of them spread countless men and women far and wide. Beware, be mindful of Allah in whose name you make requests of one another. Beware of severing the ties of kinship. Allah is always watching over you. And He reminds us, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. Believers, be mindful of Allah, speak in a direct fashion and to good purpose, and He will put your deeds right for you and forgive you your sins. Whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger will truly achieve a great triumph. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anh tells us that the Prophet ﷺ told us, هُلِكَ الْمُتَنَطِّعُونَ هُلِكَ الْمُتَنَطِّعُونَ هُلِكَ الْمُتَنَطِّعُونَ. The Prophet ﷺ repeated this phrase, هُلِكَ الْمُتَنَطِّعُونَ, 3 times in a row. And if you look at its meaning, hulika is people, a group who is ruined, who destroys themselves. Right? Hulika al-mutanatti'un, destroyed or ruined, are the ones who behave in an extremist way. Right? Who behave in an extremist way. Another way to sort of render it in English is ruined or destroyed are those who indulge in hair splitting. So what is extremism and what is hair splitting? Right? This is something that we need to navigate with regard to the reminder of the Prophet ﷺ. This word mutanatti, it's derived from tanattu, and that indicates when you do something and you delve into it, you deeply delve into it, exorbitantly. You inquire into it in an extreme fashion. Now, one of the things I want to, from the very beginning of this address to you, clarify is that this question of what is extremism, right? This is something that we have to very carefully consider. And the scholars gave us some guidance and some indications as to what kinds of actions or behaviors or attitudes go towards this talattu behavior or the mutalatti'in descriptor. Imam Nawawi says that it refers to those who delve too deeply, right? So that's one trait, who are extreme, and then they will go beyond the limits in their speech and in their actions. Beyond the limits of what? Beyond the limits of what Allah and His Rasul ﷺ put as limits. Right? So if there are certain limits, and we begin to go beyond those limits, on either side, right? Abu Dharr al-Ghafari there was a point in time he fasted every single day. And Rasulullah ﷺ, when he heard about it, he advised him not to do that. He told him, fast one day and break your fast the next day. Right? And this is the fast of Dawood alayhi salam. So the Prophet guided him away from an action that he considered excessive, immoderate, right? And not in line with prophetic advice, and not in line with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided us. So this mutanatti'un, or this tanattu', when it comes to matters of religion, but also when it comes to matters of life, we must not confuse with excellence, right? Ihsan. So if you are somebody who's pursuing religious knowledge or religious behavior, you pray, you fast, you do good deeds, you do great deeds, and your goal is ihsan. Your goal is ihsan, your goal is excellence, your goal is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And your goal is to be better than you were yesterday and day before yesterday. That is not tanattu. That is not tanattu. As long as you keep within the bounds of this religion and you do not cross the boundaries on either side, on the side of sin and neither on the side of excessively doing certain things that can break us, because then we go beyond the bounds or of the limits Allah has given us in our own bodies, in our own minds, in our own capacities. So moderation is the opposite of this idea of tanattu, or being a mutanattu, that you are reasonable. You are reasonable. Now it would be very helpful if we could figure out an example. And one of the examples in the Quran is what I will share with you. And it is the interaction between Musa alayhi salam and Banu Israel after Musa alayhi salam descends from the mountain. Right? وإذ قال موسى لقومه إن الله يأمركم أن تذبحوا بقرة قالوا أتتخذون هزوا قالوا أعوذ بالله أن أكون من الجاهلين. Remember when Musa said to his people, Allah commands you to sacrifice a cow. There was a reason for this in the context of the behavior of Banu Israel in this situation. And look at the answer that they gave. They said, are you making fun of us? In our lingo, it would be, are you kidding with me? Right? This was the answer of the Banu Israel to Musa alayhi salam. Are you kidding with me that you want us to slaughter a cow? And Musa alayhi salam, basically he said, نعوذ بالله قال أعوذ بالله أن أكون من الجاهلين. God forbid that I should be so ignorant to tell you to do something, right, that God has not commanded me to do. Now, already one can sense in the words of Banu Israel, in the words of those people in that group, when they said, are you making fun of us? This is a command from a prophet. And the response is, are you making fun of us? The Quraysh did this many times with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And some of the Banu Israel did this with Musa alayhi salam. Right? This is part, it gives you an insight on the framework and reference. Remember I said earlier that if you are executing ihsan, if you are excelling, that's not tanattu. That's not extremism. That's not the one who digs and the one who inquires without necessity. That's the one who wants to seek excellence. And he inquires to understand a fine point of aqidah or a fine point of fiqh with the goal of being excellent. That is fine, that is encouraged. But here we learn that if you're asking to refuse to obey the Prophet ﷺ, or refuse to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or try to find an excuse to disobey Allah or move away from the commandments of Allah, this then heads towards tanattu. And we will see how the interaction continues. So after the Prophet ﷺ, Musa alayhi salam says, no, I'm telling you what I have been commanded. قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما هي قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة لا فارض ولا بكر عوان بين ذلك فافعلوا ما تؤمرون. They said, call on your Lord for us. Call on your Lord for us. Right? There is an attitude problem here. There is an attitude, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that there is an attitude problem amongst those who were arguing with Musa alayhi salam. Call on our Lord for us to show us what sort of a cow it should be. He answered, Allah says it should be neither too old nor too young, but in between, so do as you're commanded. فَافْعَلُوا مَا تُؤْمَرُونَ. Okay, they could have said, okay, we got the answer, it's enough. We'll pick a cow that's neither too old nor too young. They could have chosen to do that. What did they do? Second round. قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما لونها قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة صفراء فاقع لونها تسر الناظرين. They said, call on our Lord for us to show us what color it should be. There was no need for this. And Allah is clearly telling us there was no need for this second question. He answered, Allah says it should be a bright yellow cow. Right? Now the choices are getting narrow. And Rasulullah ﷺ warned us that if we ask excessive questions, Allah may send us commandments down that constrict us. Right? The more you want to know, how should I do this? Should I do it this way? I'm thinking of doing it 3 different ways. Should I do any one of these ways? Or should I do it this other? See, when you have that type of questioning, and the answer comes from Allah, then it has become restricted. But when Allah has given a wide latitude, then everything in that latitude is permissible. So deeper questioning leads to a narrower and a more confined answer from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the sequence that we see with Banu Israel. They said, call on your Lord for us to show us what color it should be. He answered, Allah says it should be a bright yellow cow pleasing to the eye, that it looks beautiful. Okay, they could have gone forward. They didn't. They had a third question. قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما هي إن البقرة تشابه علينا. Now this is crossed the line. تشابه علينا وإنا إن شاء الله لمهتدون. They said, call on your Lord for us to show us exactly what it is. All cows are more or less alike to us. Then why were you asking to begin with? Why did you ask 2 questions before this, and this third question, when all the cows are alike to you? So what is this telling us? It's telling us that the intent, Allah is revealing to us that the mutanatti'un, the ones who hair split, their intention is problematic. Their intention isn't clear and straightforward. It is to try and find a way to avoid the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or of the prophets. And Musa alayhi salam replies, قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة لا ذلول تثير الأرض ولا تسقي الحرث مسلمة لا شيئة فيها قالوا الآن جئت بالحق فذبحوها وما كادوا يفعلون. Right? Allah is continuing to reveal their inner intent. He replied, it is a perfect and unblemished cow, not trained to till the earth or water the fields. They said, now you have brought the truth. Now you have brought the truth, because it got narrowed to the very one that they were worshipping. Right? That they had decided to somehow revert back to the practices that they had known or had seen of when they were under enslavement of the Egyptian فَذَبَحُوهَا وَمَا كَادُوا يَفْعَلُونَ. So they slaughtered it, though they almost failed to do so. You know what Allah is telling us here? That even when they went to slaughter it, their hearts were rebelling. Right? And this is also the attitude of the mutanatti, and that's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, هُلِكَ الْمُتَنَطِّعُونَ. The one who is like this, the one who is extreme, the one who questions too much, the one who hair splits, he ruins himself, or he ruins the community, or that group ruins itself and ruins and harms and destroys the community. And you can see this in all of Muslim history, whenever there has been a group that has gone extreme, they have not only hurt themselves, obviously, or the reverse way, they have not only hurt the larger society, ultimately they destroyed themselves. Our history is full of instances of this. In every 100-year period, you'll have had this kind of behavior. And the Prophet ﷺ, in commenting in this sequence, he said, had they taken the nearest cow on the first command and sacrificed it, it would have been enough for them. That they would have met the condition that Allah had put on them. But because of their questioning, it got narrowed further and further, until to the point that they had a hard time even executing the final commandment, that third answer that came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Prophet ﷺ said, none makes this religion difficult for themselves or for others, except that it overcomes it. So aim for what is right, stick to the moderate way, stick to the median way. And Allah described this community, right? He described this community as what? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu qawwamina lillahi shuhada'a bil qist wa la yajrimannakum shana'anu qawmin ala an la ta'dilu i'dilu huwa aqrabu lit-taqwa wattaqullaha innallaha khabirun bima ta'malun. Be steadfastly balanced witnesses, qawwamin, for Allah in equity. Qist, not equality, equity. Qist, and let not the hatred of any people seduce you that you deal not justly. La ta'dilu, i'dilu, deal justly. Wa aqrabu lit-taqwa. This is nearer to your duty. And he reminds, he described us. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا. We have made you believers into a middle nation, or a just community, so that you may bear witness to the truth before others, and so that the messenger may bear witness to this behavior of ours before us on the day of judgment. Right? So part of avoiding this extremism, the actual result of successfully avoiding extremism is that you're balanced. And the mutanatti, because he delved or she delved so deeply into a matter, he or she then becomes unbalanced. But under what criteria? On the criteria of what Rasulullah told us. Right? That they start doing certain things that become unbalanced. Now this is something for us to sort of deeply think about in your own lives, in our communal lives. If you have issues with leadership, if you have issues within your family, what do you do? How do you behave? There are certain traits of extremism that then make you part of this advice of Rasulullah. And that's a serious reminder that you do not push and be aggressive. And I'm talking about aggressive in behavior, but that is a result of how you think about something. How do you think about an issue? So Rasulullah has guided us, he has warned us, and the challenge becomes to figure out what is behavior that is conducive towards this extremism and what is behavior that is moderate and balanced. And the ulama, interestingly enough, say that this is a difficult question. It's not an easy question. There's no easy and simple answer for this. But they have an easy and simple cure for it, right? To be able to see and figure out what is an extremist action, what is not, independently, they suggest, our ulama suggest, it's a difficult task. But what they do tell us is that if you take the behavior pattern of a person who's learned, a scholar, who demonstrates the behavior pattern of the Prophet ﷺ, then we will see the absence of extremism. But how do you guarantee that? How do you guarantee the absence of extremism in a person who is a scholar? Because our scholars are saying, take your deen and take your behavior pattern from these exemplary individuals who are generally very learned, okay, and scholarly, and devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Habib Mustafa. by determining that a scholar has the pedigree and the connection back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That you recognize that this person who claims to be a scholar, you can validate, is one who is trained by another scholar, and the other one, and the other one, all the way going back. And this is the chain, the isnad of your scholarship. The isnad of the scholarship of an individual scholar goes a long way. It's not 100% guarantee, but goes a long way in helping us understand what is balanced behavior, and then observing balanced behavior. You know, if somebody yells at you, what's your normal response? Yell back. That's your normal response. Shaitan will tell you, yell back. Shaitan will also tell you, it's justice, yell back at him. But that's not the behavior of the Prophet. He was yelled at, he was screamed at, and his behavior wasn't reciprocating harm. La darar wa la dirar. This is what the Prophet taught us. There is no giving of harm, right? Or reciprocating harm. You should not give harm to somebody, and you should not return harm when somebody harms you. This is the Prophet's advice. So, are you going to do that, or are you going to seek justice? Well, if you're going to seek justice, because that's your right, you seek justice with an independent third party deciding what justice is. You don't decide what justice is. Because you are the hard person. You are the aggrieved person. This is the balance of Islam. But the one who fails to see this and says, well, I've been unjustly dealt with, so I'm going to respond. And by the way, I'm going to notch up my response so that, I crush the person. Right? Then you are the extremist. You are one of the mutanattiq. This is how one begins to see in one's own life and responses and behavior patterns whether we have these elements of extremism. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. In a nutshell, to avoid extremism and avoid this hadith in which the Prophet advises us and reminds us that hulika al-mutamattin, ruined are the ones who split hairs and are extremists, the best advice that I've come across from multiple ulama is that you learn your religion, both the knowledge of it and the practice of it, from teachers whose pedigree is solid, whose connection back to Rasulullah ﷺ is documentable, whose character is testified to by others. Right? If 10 scholars testify to the uprightness, to the qist, and to the adl, qawwam, qist and adl, to these three traits of an individual, that is a person to emulate, and that is a person to learn from. Our scholars talked about ilm al-amali, operational knowledge, practical knowledge, and they described and they said, the knowledge we acquire, the balance we are practicing it, this is ilm al-amali, the balance we are practicing it, to know how to prioritize, to know how to balance revenge from injustice, right? As I gave you the example earlier. So it's important to understand the balanced behavior pattern from those who have learned that same behavior pattern in a chain going back to Rasulullah. That is established and a true guarantee of understanding and being balanced and away from extremism. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون واقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة.